We're gonna go ahead and start the August 19th, 2024 Policy Committee meeting. So I'm calling the meeting to order. Rise, please, for the pledge of allegiance. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And I guess we need the roll call.
Yes. We've got Eugene. Eugene is available.
Ready to go.
Go.
All right. Corey Hayes,
Here.
Bill McIntosh,
Here.
Crystal Vanucci,
Here.
Jonathan Gerlach,
Here.
Shannon Holmes, here. Drew Mullins,
Here.
Jakubowski, Meg Blumke,
Here.
she probably, Monica Gary, present. Marcy Parker, here. Robert Schneider, Robert Schneider. And we have a quorum.
All right, thank you. All right, and I'm looking for approval of the August 19th, 2024 agenda. Do you have a motion? Okay. All right.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
before you vote, we are going to ask that we withdraw item number
E.
E. It was added as a late item, but we heard from DRPT that they've subsequently decided that there may be an error in the item, so they like us to withdraw it and they would bring it back in September. So if we can just remove item
Okay.
7E from the consent agenda, please.
And do I have a motion?
Motion modified.
Okay.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
was there any other item that was added later, or was that the only one?
that was the only one.
Okay,
Yeah.
good, thank you.
Do I have a motion? Do I need a second on that?
Somebody did that.
Second.
Okay. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. All right, we're going on to public hearings.
The first public hearing is for the TIP amendment that we had previously. John, do you want to say anything about?
Did we approve this?
John.
No, we haven't done the consent agenda.
Any comments about?
Okay, no, we're up there. Yeah, we're right here. Gotcha. Yeah.
So from Rupert Farley, just when I thought VDOT transparency couldn't get any worse, this project description, quote, from various to various, unquote, tops them all. If FAMPO is serious about wanting public feedback, it has to provide better descriptions than that. Our second comment comes from James Wilson. I have a few comments, however, I don't know if this is what you are looking for in a reply. I generally welcome any improvements on expansion to Route 1, Route 3, and US 17. Other improvements are also desirable to the poor traffic light signal cycle and need to retime many of the lights at many different intersections due to extremely extensive time for some directions and extremely long waiting incredible times for other directions, especially US 17. Thanks and best regards, James Wilson. No more.
Thank you. If there are any comments from a member of the public?
Yeah, any comments from the public? Okay. None.
Yep.
All right. All right, and then, well, already done, any public comments? No. And you don't, that was the only comments you had written in, right?
For the public hearings, yes.
Okay,
So item 5 and item 6 are two separate items. Item 5, we've had the comments on this particular project.
oh, right, okay,
Item 6 is the public can comment on any topic
okay,
that they wish,
okay,
up to 3 minutes.
okay. And do you have anything written in?
Yes, from Jane Leeds, we have, dear FAMPO members, I am relocating to Fairfax County in August. I will not be attending any more meetings in Central Virginia or lending my thoughts and suggestions, which you never took seriously or responded to. I wish you well, and I hope that you will someday adopt a more humane and forward-thinking attitude to those who are disabled. As I have repeatedly said, hoping that you will see the truth of my words, quote, it is not a matter of funding programs for those whom are negatively impacted by lack of access, but a lack or willingness to prioritize funding for projects to benefit not only the disabled, but those whom are financially impacted by the lack of resources, unquote. Continuing to ignore or discount the needs of the disabled, elderly, and financially challenged population of the central region only increases taxes and lack of quality of life for many of our citizens. Congress has continually set aside funding to be used for the aforementioned population. However, local and state stakeholders ignore or diminish their instructions, and their lack of accountability is a sin that falls to Congress and to you in your advisory capacity. You are responsible for representing the quote, total, unquote, picture of the outcomes of your work. You do not address the issues of quality of life, accessibility, future assessment of the ecological impact of the decisions made, and completely ignore the needs of those who cannot drive, own a vehicle, or gain employment through the former. There is a reason why our country is no longer #1 in the world for infrastructure. We are now number 13. Europe and Asia has surpassed us long ago because our planners continue to pour concrete, build bridges, ram for vehicles that use, quote, dirty fuel, and buses for transport. This practice is your comfort zone. Apparently, it is all you know how to do. Central Virginia will never prosper or be a desirable place to live. Cited planning, and unless you realize how totally backwards your methods and decisions are when it comes to serving all the people, particularly those who do not have access to transportation. I've challenged people to give up their vehicle fee for a week and try to do all that they have to do. Funny thing, no one tried because they knew they couldn't do it. Using commuter buses is useless. For decades, they have come and gone away. People/riders don't like them. They're touted, smelly, get tied up in traffic, break down, and are dangerous to be in if there is an accident. I know this firsthand as I have experienced it. I doubt that anyone on the planning committee has ever done so on a regular basis. In theory, it works, but the reality of commuter bus transit does not have a good outcome. Central Virginia is doomed to being the last and least in the state if you don't sit up, look around, and have a more forward planning future plan to address transit and transportation needs for everyone, not just those who drive and own vehicles. Submitted by Jane Leeds, former FAMPO member and advocate for the financially challenged. That ends our comment.
Okay, is that all then?
Yes.
Thank you so much. Yeah, okay, all right. Okay, moving on. I asked like twice. Again, anybody with public comment? Yes.
Hi, I'm Barbara Wright, and I'm Vice President of the HOA Board for Celebrate, Del Webb Celebrate, which is a 55+ community off of Celebrate Parkway and in Stafford County. And we have a couple of questions. There's a development going on just immediately on the parkway, immediately south of the FBI building. And we haven't been able to find out what is going into that area that they're starting to get the land prepared. And so we're interested in that and interested in whether or not that will exit in and out of the parkway, or if that will exit from maybe Commerce Parkway on the back end of it. And so that's the main thing that we're here about today. And we are very interested in the river crossing and keeping abreast of what's going on with that too. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, we're all good. Okay, good back there.
Thank you.
So unlike you, Al.
It's only been a year.
Okay, we'll go on to FAMPO Administrator Report.
Thank you. We, chairpersons, just need to approve the consent agenda.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, guys, this is my first chair meeting, so have patience with me.
No problem at all.
Motion to approve consent.
Case of here.
No, I already said that we need a different.
Can we get a
vote. Now
second?
Second.
I second.
Okay, all in favor?
Uh,
Now I'll approve that.
All opposed? Any abstentions? All right, there we go.
Thank you. Chairperson, if you don't mind, I'll just stay seated here.
baptism by fire.
It is,
Jean,
you
if you
know.
can pull up the report, thank you. So we're in August and we've just come back from our summer recess month of July. So if you can move the slide to the next one. Welcome everybody back to FAMPO after the recess. We're all excited about the new financial year FY25. Tonight's meeting may be shorter depending on y'all's comments and
Yes.
questions. But we're just going to briefly talk about what's on the cards in FY25. So here is a list. It's not exhaustive, but it's just a list of some of the things that we're going to be looking at that is in our Unified Planning Work Program. The FAMPO travel demand model, you hear about that tonight. It's owned by VDOT. It gets rebuilt now every 5 years. So the new version we've been working on for about a year with VDOT, and it's almost complete. They are busy with the final materials, and then we'll do training on how to use the models. That's coming out very soon. And then we can use the new model for studies and so on. We're going to complete the river crossing study and report, and they're going to report the findings. We're going to complete a range of LRTP modifications to just update the data and the constrained long-range plan list of projects. We'll talk more about that in the coming months. We're also going to update the long-range transportation plan goals to include some items requested by organizations for disabled folks. We've heard from them over the past year, and we will make some adjustments there to accommodate their needs and concerns. We're going to hear the results of Smart Scale Round 6. Just submitted all our projects and all the documentation. We hope to get our projects funded, but as you know, we're competing across the state. So we'll find out probably in January how the initial scores of all the projects has gone. We'll likely be working on a new Safe Streets for All study. We had an inquiry from the federal government. It looks like they're intending to give us a partial award. They won't fund 100% of what we asked for. They'll give us a portion of it, but we haven't been given the official award yet. So we aren't certain yet what is in there and what isn't. We're going to close out our documents on the Regional Transportation Authority. Start preparations for the 2055 long-range transportation plan. We're not going to work on it this year, but we are going to start planning for how we are going to do the 2055 LRTP, answer questions like, do we need to do a scenario planning exercise? This was last done in 2012. So does FAMPO need to update that, do a new scenario planning exercise? And then there's some projects which we included, which we need to think through and decide what does FAMPO really want to do. And that is a right-sizing analysis of the transportation network in the region, looking at transit-oriented development. Do we want to work on that? Some additional work on the freight issues in our region. The Infrastructure and Job Act requires us to pay attention to what is called complete streets, where you look at the street, you need to provide accommodations for all modes of transportation, whether you're in your car, whether you're in a bus, whether you're walking on the sidewalk or you're on your bicycle. And then future smart scale projects. We want to start now working on the 2-year from now deadline to submit projects. So you have to have the projects. You have to have studies to determine what the best solution is in that particular situation. And we then need to work on getting loads and loads of documents ready. So we've just finished this round. We're already starting to think about next round, what we need to do there. That may lead into a possible new round of pipeline studies. These are studies funded through VDOT. So we don't choose and pick the studies, but we do work with VDOT and usually their consultants on those, and they can lead to smart scale projects. Not always, but they can. And then work on any additional requests from you all as the policy committee. So those are just some of the things that we're looking at in the new financial year. They're all listed in the UPWP.
Okay. Madam Chair and Ian, a couple of months ago, we believed that the river crossing study would be complete and in front of FAMPO like November. Is there any update on that at this point in time?
John's going to do an update in the meeting tonight.
Okay.
We are about 2 months behind is the simple answer.
All right.
There's a reason for it. We'll explain.
Thank you.
Next slide. So the travel demand model that you heard about, some of this might be gibberish to you. Where we are at the moment, they have inputted new zonal data, the transit routes, new roads that have been built in the network, etc., and then looked at the future new roads that are going to be built, new transit routes that are going to be implemented. And VDOT is busy now working with a consultant to wrap up the documentation for the model, how it operates, how users of the model need to use it to get correct outcomes. Next slide. What the schedule looks like now. Right now, they're busy finishing the documentation, and VDOT is doing a review of the model that's been built by their consultant. In September, they're going to present to the TAC, our Technical Advisory Committee. They're going to deliver the full package of the new model and do some training on how to use it. And then deal with any little issues that crop up between now and the end of the year. So they basically are finished with the travel demand model, and we can begin to use it for studies. So if any of the jurisdictions work on a study, like for example, I think Stafford has got some funding to do a multimodal study on Garrisonville Road. You'll be able to use the new model by your consultant. FAMPO can use the new model. So that's where we are with that. It's very technical work, but just to let you know that this model is built at great cost and maintained at great cost. And a lot of effort goes in by your staff that may not be in this room tonight, as well as FAMPO staff, as well as consultants, to make sure that that model accurately reflects reality and that it's able to do some predicting of the future. Next slide. So our small scale submissions. Now, we have promised the TAC that we would do a review of round 6 of small scale at the TAC meeting in the first week of September. So we're not going to prolong the meeting tonight by having a long discussion. You'll be able to talk about it at length in your next meeting with some comments from the TAC. So don't need to, belabor this point tonight. Just wanted to tell you that those are the 8 projects we submitted. You know that already. What you perhaps didn't know is that the cost of the projects is listed there for you, and the local match and CMAC funding and CR is congestion relief funding and STGB funding that was put onto those projects. And that'll tell you the total cost is the total cost, and then the other columns are funding we put towards the project in millions of dollars. And that big number at the bottom there is very scary. And from here, it's hard to read it actually, but anyway, $468 million and some change. That is a very large dollar value and a set of large projects for this region. We were told that we need to put in bigger projects this year. We've done that. We don't know how the projects are going to do. Our CTB member over there, I don't know if she has any comments, but she might think I'm a little negative, but we're concerned this year we're going to do less well than we've done in the past, but we'll see. Those are the projects that we submitted on your behalf and on the behalf of the George Washington Regional Commission. Next slide. Regional growth. I'm just reminding you of this because, we've been to the beach, we've had a summer recess. We remain in Virginia the fastest growing planning district commission territory, right? You can see there the blue ones are the fast growing ones, the red ones are actually losing population. So the population is being concentrated around our region and Richmond and areas to the south and west of us. We're growing faster than Northern Virginia. Just think about that for a moment in population. So we need to plan our transportation systems to cater for that. And out of the 3 blues, we are the fastest growing of the 3 blues. So we're the fastest growing of the fastest growing regions in Virginia. And that's important for planning. The population might be growing faster than the resources to deal with that. Trains, buses, cars, roads, bike paths. Next slide. The newspaper article or the online magazine article recently said that none of the $4.5 billion worth of state funding and the $1 billion of federal funding has resulted in anything actually being constructed. Well, that's a photograph right now of the, in fact, it's a couple of months back, of the station at Quantico. And only half of the trackage that is going to be built there existed 6 months ago. The third track has already been laid through there in Quantico, and they built those stairs and elevators and superstructure to get you between the platforms. They've laid a new platform, and that structure already exists, right? It's not coming one day in the future. So just to counter that statement in the newspaper, there's a photograph of something that's actually been built. And this is a couple of months old. It's gone a lot further down the line now. The third track through Quantico is complete. They're now testing it. They've got testing equipment to make sure there's no bumps and all that kind of thing. It's largely complete. By the end of the year, they're finished with this project and will move off site probably in January. It is done. So stuff has been built. Next slide. That's the same station from a different angle. You can see on the left there is the old station building, and that superstructure is all new. And the track you can see there's one of the 3 tracks that now exist. So we now have 3 tracks going through Quantico. 2 of them are operational currently. The one is still being tested and they're checking. I don't know when they will officially be using all 3 tracks, but it's laid. The track is laid. The superstructure is built. It's not nothing. There's an example of something that's already been constructed. And tonight you're going to hear a little bit more about another piece of track that needs to get constructed and a project, and we've got guests tonight to tell us about that. Next slide. Just reminding you that last financial year, we were talking about future transit in this region, local and regional transit, and the advice staff received from you is give us a chance. We want to think about this, and we'll come back to you with questions. So just reminding you that staff are not working on this. We're not working on proposals. We will, when you give us a set of questions or a set of things to do, we will go and work on that. Next slide. Just 2 things. The Governor's Transportation Conference is October the 23rd to the 25th in Norfolk. Love the way the people down there pronounce the word Norfolk. And also, you know about your own jurisdiction, but I'm not sure you know about each other's jurisdictions as much. All 3 of our jurisdictions are amending their comprehensive plans right now. Particularly the chapters on transportation. They're incorporating new projects. They're making changes. I think Stafford is including their transportation master plan is now being included in the comprehensive plan. City of Fredericksburg has started a rewrite of their comprehensive plan, and I believe SWATC is looking at a new set of projects to add to their comprehensive plan in transportation. So all 3 jurisdictions right now are looking at their plans and making adjustments and updates. So just be aware that not just your jurisdiction, all 3 of you are doing it at the same time. It's just a fluke of history. I don't think anybody planned it like that, but it is happening. So that's my report, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions? Okay. All right, we'll go on to action and discussion items. 9A, VPRA Potomac Creek Third Track Project, Leland Road Bridge Reconstruction, Public Outreach.
So we've got some guests tonight from the Virginia Passenger Rail Authority. There is a new project in Stafford County that is coming, and they're here to tell us about it. So welcome, the 3 of you. Thank you so much, 4 of you.
So I'm just gonna stand for, just say hi real quick. I served with a few of you on the board. It's good to see you. John and Jen are gonna help lead the discussion. I love that you're right here and right next to the train station. John, you just came down the train out in your office. I usually, when I go at least once, if not twice a week down in your office, I come up here and I park in the lot and take the train out. And looking forward to the day when you can take the train south to Richmond as well. It should be coming about a year or so. It's an Amtrak train be coming through at kind of reverse commute time. And we'll be making more improvements in John's and also with train times. The reason we're doing all this isn't just to to buy land, we're gonna own half of what CSX owns, or to build projects. It's so we can put more trains out there, at more times, give people more tools, to get where they need to be. So with that, again, thank you for having us here. I'm gonna hand it over to John. Oh, sorry, I'm Mike McLaughlin. I'm the COO. Some of you know that. but COO of Virginia Passenger Rail Authority. We are new. Some of you are probably thinking, who the heck are you? Some of us came over from DRPT a few years ago. We were created 2020, first staff in 2021. So don't ever hesitate to say, why were you created, or ask this question if you want. But some people like me have been through this from the beginning when we started with CSX and a few years ago, and we're expanding to do something in Norfolk Southern and the Manassas line as well. And so hopefully we're here to stay for a while and keep bringing more options, rail options to the region. So thank you.
Yeah.
We'll go for the introduction. So I'm John Griffin with the Virginia Passenger Rail Authority. I serve as a project manager. These projects we'll be speaking on is two that I've been working on for the last year and a half intensely. So, and we have
John Carney, Vice President, Engineering and Construction, Passenger Rail Authority.
Karina Romero, I'm the Communications Manager for VPRA.
Jessica Eglin, I'm our new Government Affairs Manager.
And I'm Jenna Freeberg, I'm the Community Affairs Manager. I'm leading all the public outreach on this particular project.
Welcome to all of you.
So today we'll be doing welcome and introductions. We'll get to a VPRA overview. We'll speak briefly on transforming rail in Virginia. We'll talk about the Potomac Creek Third Track South project, which is, and it's called Siding A. We'll do a project status, look at the road overpass project. Then we'll look at the VDOT and stakeholder coordination, proposed detours, and then we'll speak outreach plans. Next slide. What is Virginia Passenger Rail Authority? Virginia Passenger Rail Authority, we're an agency started back in 2020. We're responsible for the Transforming Rail in Virginia program, which is infrastructure primarily from DC down to Richmond, Virginia right now. We have a multitude of projects, so it's a multi-billion-dollar program, a multi-year program. We'll be working on expanding commuter and passenger rail service Commonwealth. So, and then these are our values: foster leadership and public service. I'm not going to read them all, but these are our guiding principles. This is how we conduct business on a day-to-day basis. That's what we do. So, next slide. Here is an overlay, or just pretty much an overview of what our program currently is, broken down into phases. I think the first thing I would mention is the right-of-way acquisition that we did in order to start this program. So we purchased it in 3 segments primarily, down from DC to St. Petersburg, Virginia, and we own half of that corridor, of the R&P corridor. Segment 2, we own all of the corridor, which is the old CSX S line from Petersburg down to Ridgeway, North Carolina. I think everyone, well, most people in this room have seen this presentation, so shouldn't be new information. Then segment 3 from Doswell to Clifton Forge, Virginia, we own pretty much all of that right of way. So project we're working on here, pretty much in the mid segment of the first segment of the right of way that we purchased, which is Potomac Creek and the Leland Road reconstruction project. So that's pretty much the overview. You can go to the next slide. Here, through the CSX agreement, the aim, as Mike said, is to increase service. We want to really increase the reliability of service and the for passenger and commuter rail service over the network. So the biggest, I would say, project that we have in our program right now is Long Bridge, which is right in the DC area. And so for each phase of the program, we will get new service, so we'll get additional VRE and additional Amtrak service. So that was pretty much the deal that we signed with CSX and Amtrak. And we will be increasing Amtrak service into Union Station, and we will have a 75% increase in VRE commuter rail service at the end of our program. So, And this does include DRE late nights and weekend service, so. Go to the next slide. And this is more of just a zoomed in version of pretty much the overview slide that I showed you earlier. And it shows pretty much line front, fourth track, has Long Bridge project. The work we're doing up in Northern Virginia, as I would call it, that's in blue, which is still phase one. And then at the southern end of our phase one projects would be the Potomac Creek third track project, which we call siding A internally. So, and it's about almost 4 miles of new track we're building in the Stafford County. So,
John, if I can, the end goal is we're gonna have 4 tracks from DC to Alexandria, and that's where the Manassas line trains break off and the Fredericksburg line trains come down. Then what you don't see here is phases 3 and 4, which build the third track, which will get us a dedicated third track all the way to Spotsylvania. What does that mean for VRE especially? That means we can control more of our own destiny in the future. We don't have to say Mother May I to CSX all the time. We want to add a new train. We're gonna own at least one of those tracks, and eventually you might want to build up a 4 tracks all the way to Spotsylvania. Complete freedom of adding more trains. So this is we only funded through phase 2, but this is funded. This is I think Ian mentioned earlier, 4.5 billion. About 4 billion of it is here in this area here. 4 billion is funded through various local, state, federal funds, including VRE's contributed 200 million and the jurisdiction $200 million to the 4 billion. Amtrak's contributed money, the state kicked in quite a lot as well. So thanks for letting me jump in, but again, that's the end goal, is to be able to own and control much of this line. They'll still be operated by VRE, Amtrak, and CSX. Let the professionals run it, but again, having to say Mother May all the time to CSX, and we work well with them, can be difficult with any freight railroad. They have their own business to run in town, but this larger deal that we found would be beneficial for this region. It's Ian's point earlier about the growth that's coming. We're doing it for now because our trains are Amtrak running, especially on weekends. I know VRE wants it for that reason. It's higher than it's ever been. You want to plan now for that growth that's coming that you pointed out in that map we got earlier.
and this is more of a zoomed in area of last slide we had. It shows pretty much all the siding extensions or the new siding additions that we have, both phases 1 and phases 2. It's really just siding, that would be siding D, siding A, and siding F, siding B. So that's as we call them internally, but it's pretty much the layout, zoomed in layout of our overall program. Projects. Next slide. So this is the big slide, I would call it. So this is Potomac Third Track South, which is a multi-million-dollar project over multiple years, starting almost 3 miles south of the Brook VRE station and almost 1.5 miles north of Fredericksburg station. And it does include construction of a new single-track railroad bridge over Harold Road. We'll be building a new bridge over Claiborne Run, which is just a stream that runs underneath the railway, just north of Harold Road. And then we do have additional pier protection at Primer House Road on the west side of the particular corridor because of the track spacing. We have to put in pier protection. And then the last bullet is the reconstruction of the Leland Road Bridge, and we'll get into the details of that on the next slide. So this is basically what it's going to really look like in the future. This is looking north along the corridor. So if you were standing at Leland Road to the east, just true north, being just looking to the east or north along railroad corridor, and that's what it looks like. We just have this proposed track, which is typically 15 feet off the center line of the existing 1 track there, so or 2 track. Sorry. And the purpose of the siding is to meet and pass trains. And in this configuration, if you have 2 trains that are about to, they're traveling in opposing directions, you'll be able to chamber a train and then run around the train that you've chambered on the siding track. So that's pretty much the gist of a siding and why we're doing this. So You can go to the next slide. And the Leland Road Overpass Project, I think, this is basically the Leland Road Station. And the reason why we have to do this project is because the opening underneath Leland Road as it stands, as it goes over the rail corridor, is just not wide enough to be able to accommodate an additional track. So what we'll do now, we'll make it wide enough to accommodate this project, which is the third track, but we'll also leave enough space to accommodate a fourth track in the future. So that's pretty much it. And we're pegging it as a multi-million-dollar, multi-year project. And that's pretty much all I have for this slide. You can go to the next slide. And this is a picture. I think the picture is 1,000 words. I don't think these the figure where it shows the banding and like the tarps on the bridge, I don't think that's there currently based off of previous pictures. So, and this is just an aerial showing exactly where on the rail corridor where Leland Road is. And not only do we want to increase the horizontal clearance, we also need to increase the vertical clearance of the bridge because of CSX's vertical standards. So, and we actually released the RFQ for this project on the 15th. So we do have it out, and we have an industry day tomorrow for the road reconstruction project, which is going to be a design build project, a two-step design build project. So the first phase of that, or the first step of that design build process, we're heavily engrossed in right now, I would say. So, next slide. And working with VDOT in Stafford County, we were able to reach an agreement to actually fully close this road, or Leland Road, during construction of the project. So it should take about 22 months, but we have been informed by VDOT, just because they've agreed to 22 months, the contractor shouldn't just bank on having 22 months. They should strive to be efficient, not jeopardizing quality, not jeopardizing safety. But so what we've agreed to right now is 22 months, and we do have 2 detours that I can show you. Next slides. So someone.
This, ladies and gentlemen, is the impact on the public, right? So that's why they may ask to come and speak to us tonight, is to just get it through to us and our followers and supporters that there's going to be a 22-month potential impact on traffic.
What's the time delay?
In time delay.
The time delay?
How much longer? So yeah, just now, well, we calculated an additional 3 minutes going on this detour.
That account for like traffic lights and all those cars going the same way now?
Yeah, it's really a nominal figure, those 3 minutes.
Wow. You know about this?
Yep.
And the detour one, so working with VDOT in Stafford County.
Yeah.
So,
Go for it.
okay, go ahead and finish, John.
Yeah, working with Stafford County and VDOT, we determined that we needed 2 detours, one for just passenger traffic and one for truck traffic. So first one that I'm showing you is for the just passenger cars that go around Primer House, Morton Road, and it'll use Leland Road. And I would say the detour itself is somewhat exaggerated because we're not going to be closing down, right in front of Conway Elementary School and, all the way up to Morton Road. So the detour itself will be more, pertaining to the area of just the project limits, the construction of the road, and especially the construction of the bridge itself. So there will be an opening here just north of Conway Elementary School where you still have access, and we will not shut down access to the Leland Road station throughout construction of the bridge. So that's something that we next slide. And this is just showing like what the truck detour looks like, because there's a landfill almost 2.5 miles north of Leland Road, the bridge project. It goes along Deacon Road, Brook Road, and Eskimo Hill Road. And this one is an additional 7 minutes of travel time. So, and that's pretty much, you can go to the next slide. And new service corresponds with construction. So I think we kind of spoke to this earlier, but I think the primary thing I would say is this increases Amtrak service from 6 to 13 round trips. So we're doubling it with nearly hourly service from DC to Richmond. So at the end of phase 1 and phase 2 projects that I showed you earlier slide. So this provides EPRA with a unique opportunity to really own our infrastructure and enhance the rail capacity. So pretty much have things, we have better control of our destiny, I would say, operating the program in the manner that we anticipate operating. So, and next slide. And I'll leave this to our community affairs person.
So there's obviously a lot of stakeholder engagement that needs to happen around this detour. It's a pretty major detour for some people. So we've been working with FAMPO. We've already given them a briefing. We've given briefings to Chairwoman Bonke and her staff, and I am in constant contact with her staff as well. I just talked to Andrew today, actually. We've been having these stakeholder meetings. We'll also be meeting with the affected homeowners along the detour route at some point during this process to answer any questions they might have specific to the detour and how it might affect them. We are in constant bi-weekly communication with VDOT as they are a major partner on this project. And the detour planning, they are very much a part of the truck detour was a specific request by VDOT. So that we didn't also have the trucks going down the same detour as passenger vehicles. And then if you go to the next slide, we have pretty extensive community outreach plans for the next month or two. So throughout the summer is when the stakeholder meetings started, giving the briefings, making sure you guys understand what the detour means and why we're doing this, so that when we do start bringing this more out into the public and the public starts asking you, hey, what am I supposed to do if it's down Leland Road? You can say, you have the answers. And then in early September, we have a few pop-up events. So on September 4th, we will be tabling outside the Leland Road VRE station. We'll have handouts, we'll have some poster boards. Anyone getting on or off the train can come and ask us any questions as they review our materials, and we'll also be giving out information about the public meeting that will be on September 18th. We'll also be tabling at the Mossad YMCA on September 10th from 10 to 12:30 in the afternoon. Same idea. Handouts, poster boards, encouraging people to come up and ask us questions, giving out information about the public meeting. And then on September 19th, I'm sorry, not 18th, September 19th, we will be having a public hearing at Conway Elementary School in the gymnasium from 5:30 to 7 p.m. We'll have a presentation at 6 p.m. and then the floor will be open for questions afterwards. We'll have the same boards, we'll have similar handouts, trying to give as much information as possible to people. Just this morning, I sent out our digital communications toolkit. It has graphics, it has social media posts that one can share on your platforms. It has newsletter examples for your own newsletters. If any of you have some sort of ongoing communication with your constituents, with your neighbors, if you're part of a community organization and you would like it, please let me know and I will email it to you. It just makes sharing information about the public hearing much more accessible to everybody. And all you need to do is just copy and paste and you'll be able to post. On to the next. So our next steps, move on to the next slide, please. I'll hand it back to John because he'll explain the next steps in terms of procurement, and we'll talk a little bit more about community engagement again.
Yeah, as I said, the key point here is that they're not shutting down this road now. There is several years before they get to breaking the bridge down. So the detours are, he'll tell us now, but I think it's at least 2 years out. So we've got 2 years to inform the community. It's not happening tomorrow.
I think that's the important thing, is this is not gonna happen right this second.
No, it's not.
Exactly, and the point of the public meeting now is so that if there are comments and things that we maybe overlooked or we didn't address, the public can make that known to us, and if we need to make changes, we can. And then also we're giving everybody ample time to make plans for what happens when the bridge does close and however many years.
And I'm sorry, but I'm assuming that in addition to talking to you, Meg, and VDOT and everything else, that you all are taking into consideration any new development that would be going in at this same juncture as well, right? That would be a concern, sure.
I think there would only be by right back there. I don't think there are any rezonings in that area. That's a good point.
Yes, Drew?
Madam Chair, will there be any changes or configurations to the detour roads as far as speed or traffic signs or lights or anything?
We haven't envisioned that just yet, but any improvements in terms of tree clearing. Oh, there were a few intersections where sight distance was an issue and VDOT has to clear the necessary trees.
Okay.
So that's the level.
So you've just identified the detours right now, but the other work is gonna happen, so.
Yeah, it needs to head up.
So, John, do you mind going back? I think this might help people a little bit visually. Could you go back to the slide, if you will? I can stand, the one just before that. Okay, so actually, let's go to the other one first. Thank you. Okay, so just so that all of you know, we have a partnership with the city of Fredericksburg as it relates to the landfill. So all their trucks, they're either going up Route 1, some go up Brook Road, but the vast majority of them all go up Potomac Run Road. Okay, that road will not be accessible to them, if I'm understanding you correctly, because they're now gonna be forced, the detour is gonna send them all the way over to Brook. Is that right? Because my concern is if we put them on, and if you go to the slide before that, sir, thank you. This is Morton Road, and this is a windy, curvy road, which I'm really concerned about for the detour. We talked about with DPRT at the very first meeting, and the schools were there, the sheriff department was there. I mean, all the stakeholders were there for Stafford County. And we talked about, is there any way you could do some wedge widening along there? But you guys have come back and said you don't have enough. There's not enough right of way. There's not enough. I mean, that's what I was told.
Which one?
I think from VDOT's perspective, we couldn't get the drainage to work. Ditches, so that's.
Oh, okay.
So.
Okay, because I mean, I'm gonna tell you, for the public's benefit, that is my biggest concern, is Morton Road, but that's the only way people coming from another end of Leland, that's the only way they're gonna be able to get around. Now, the other, area where I have concern is right here, because people are gonna be making a left turn, and this is the road, Hill, Forbes goes down to the Valero at Route 1, okay? This is a wonky intersection right here. It's right by the little bridge. I don't know, I mean, if that's 22 months, do we need to have a signal there, Marcy? I don't know, but I am concerned about safety, right there. And my other concern would be if trucks came up, Leland Road and decided to go this way because it's shorter to go up to the landfill. I don't really want all those trash trucks on that windy road constituents, so.
Maybe some signage to deter them going along this detour route.
Good
Yes.
luck with that.
So, Mayor, thank you so much, and I'm glad that you brought that back. Could you go to the next one? If you don't mind. So this, and I travel that a lot and understand that road more too, it's been a tract on the northern and more of my district. If you keep going up on Brook, because you take a left at Andrew Chapel and go to the slosh there at the very top where 6 is, that's where the VRE station is for Brook. And there's a bridge the trucks get stuck under all the time and all that fun stuff. I'll ask you more about that later. But if you keep going, there's a whole ton of houses back there. All those people, every time they go to south, they don't go out to Route 1, why would they? Or 95, they go down that way. And so there already is some pretty consistent local traffic there. So I want to make sure I engage with you all to make sure that they understand what's going on. Maybe you could come out and share something at the fire station there or something that would be great.
I'll give you my card, and if you want, we can connect on that, and we need to go out and talk to them specifically. We're also doing direct mail for some of the folks along Hammer House Road, so if that's another area that we should do direct mail with, I would love to know.
There's no other way out. That's the way. They either go out on Andrew Chapel or they go south. If they're going to Fredericksburg, they're going through that area.
Where that
It's just a Brook area. I can give you more information afterwards. Yeah. Thank you.
And the other thing.
And that's very windy as well. We do have that issue with the trucks, because you go that way and you're having the same problem with the roads.
Right.
Yeah.
And then all the people that live here on the back side of Leland, will they, because this is the back way into, wait, where's?
It goes broke
Yeah,
down to
yeah.
Deacon.
Where's, another map for,
Yeah, it's just-
oh, okay. So will the back entrance of Leland be impacted where it goes right across to the VRE station?
Yeah.
Yes,
Oh,
that'll be
that
fine.
should be okay.
Coming from the south, if you will, coming up. You have to get to the station, you will not be able to get there or this bridge will go across the tracks. The station is on the south, or the east side of the front tracks.
Right, but it's past where that road is, where the people go into the back part of the Leland. The track is
Do the neighborhood or leaving the station?
both. Both. Isn't that Daffin Road right there?
Side is a lot of woods and then out. to- road up there, Johnny. Yeah, that Warren Road, yes.
Yeah, but I'm talking, well, I can get with.
Yeah, this is a significant thing and
Camille,
so appreciate you guys bringing this to us and just
Yeah.
informing us and I'm sure that Meg's got her finger on this for sure, since it's, right there, but I appreciate you bringing it to us.
I want to clarify one thing, the public meeting is actually set for the 18th. All
Okay.
those dates are on our website.
I thought that-
It sounded wrong.
Okay, so it's the
It is the
18th.
18th, sorry.
So maybe you could send that, to Ian and he could send it to the policy committee, like the dates that we would need to know so that we can, make sure we're in attendance if we need to be.
I did, Becky, you have the notifications toolkit as well.
All right, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
I can send it to you in your office as well.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, awesome. Thank you. All right.
Madam Chair, if it's okay, if we'll leave you guys.
Oh, yeah, sure. We don't want to bore you with the rest of our meeting.
Madam Chairman, it looks like there were a few more slides. Was there anything we
There's
don't want
like
to miss
just
there?
a few
Okay.
more,
Just whatever is.
Yeah.
it's just a more timeline,
Got it in here.
and then we'll scooch.
Yeah. So this is pretty much the timeline. Of course, we're post 30% on Lisbon Road. Looking to have a design build agreement executed in May of next year and the detour, according to our most recent schedule, starting the spring of 2027, which is a few years away. Now I'll go to the next slide.
This is our public engagement timeline that has the correct date of the public meeting. Thank you so much, Karina. So you can see that, a little bit of what we have done, where we are now. And then the public meeting on the 18th, like I said, will be at the Leland Road Station on September 4th from 4 to 7. The YMCA, from 10 to 12:30 on the 10th. We're speaking with the Stafford County Sheriff's Department and the Emergency Services. We're speaking to them next week. And again, detour is not happening tomorrow or this year. Just we're priming people, letting them know that this will happen, start making your plans so they're not shocked and surprised when it does happen. That's
Okay.
the point of why we're so far ahead.
Yes, Meg.
Just for the benefit of the public, what I'd like to also say is the most important part will be safety and also the communication with the parents as it relates to what will happen with their bus increases, delays, etc. And if I were you should have a public meeting with all those parents at Conway Elementary and maybe even do one over at Grafton Village before this whole thing happened. To really try to iron out any, I'll call them last minute, but I would do it probably 90 days before. Close the road to make sure you've got your I's dotted and your T's crossed. Because you're dealing with people's precious assets, their children.
You said Grafton was the other?
Yes, we can talk more about that offline.
Thanks again. Oh, yes.
I just had a question because you brought up, I was like, oh, this is a Stafford thing when I was reading here, but when you brought up the landfill, have you had any conversations? Has Fredericksburg been in some of these conversations so that they can start planning the route? You know,
Phil Hathcock, the landfill director, was in the first meeting. I don't know if you've had others meetings. He was in that one. And the school division was there, their transportation people.
First meeting happened, had, more engagement with the landfill director since. I can add him to our list of public, I'm sorry, of stakeholders, more than happy to, and I think I
Yeah.
from that as well, and if there are, like, Fredericksburg would like a more in-depth.
I think I think as long as Mr. Hathcock's involved, like, and he'll be communicating with,
The hall.
yeah,
Correct.
yes,
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Appreciate that.
appreciate that.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate you. coming.
Have a safe trip back, wherever your travels take you.
Take the train.
Apparently not on the train.
Okay, and we'll go on to 9B, the I-95 northbound, southbound.
Very quick item. It's a follow-up to a presentation we made in June, and you guys asked a question, so Becky's been working on the answer. It's very quick.
Awesome.
And you can just roll to the next slide. We brought to you in the last meeting, total crashes by segment, and Councilman Fredericksburg said, bring back the crash rates. So next slide. Crash rate is a relative comparison using three components: the total crashes, the length of segment, and the traffic volume. Next slide. Traffic volumes are available publicly at this link only through December 31st of 2022. So the accurate crash rates are on this slide, and the high southbound segment, no surprise, between Warren Road and Plank Road southbound. Next slide. Northbound high crash segment by rate is between Dumfries and Dale City. Next couple of slides will show the trends in these two segments. Next slide, YouTube. So trends are just simply that. They're just the trends. As far as total crashes go, stretch between Dumfries and Dale City. The crash, now the volumes on the prior slide are only available through 2022. However, total crashes in the public domain, we looked at the high crash segment January 1st, 2022 through May 31st, 2024, for these trends on these four slides. So as far as the trend, Dale City's tracking along pretty well. That based on the crashes through May, they'll probably have about 70 crashes by the end of the year, and that is pretty close to what it's been for the last 2 years. The other two good trends on this slide: most of the crashes are property damage only. That's the lowest crash severity. Another trend to note, and I tell my coworker Eugene and others, try to avoid the interstates on Fridays. Next slide. Interesting trend, some good news here. Alcohol related? No, most of them are not alcohol related. Most of them are in the through lanes and not the easy pass lanes. That's another trend to say, well, if you can't afford it and want to enjoy the extra time, take the easy pass. Also, all motorists in these crashes were restrained and worn their seatbelts. And the large tractor trailer trend is no. Most of the crashes are not involving large tractor trailers. Now, these next slides, you can next slide, Eugene. Yes, sir.
This is that, but that's total numbers, not rates, right? On that last slide.
Right. All these trends are just totals and not rates
Right,
at all.
okay.
And just those graphs were rates.
Right, because the
That's why-
easy pass lanes just have a lot fewer cars on.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't know that they're
It's a trend,
statistically
it's a trend,
safer.
Yeah, that's right.
You have the slides all in your pack as well.
Yeah. Okay, next one. And this is our local segment here. I want you to notice that based on 30 crashes through May 31st, we're trending at almost double. Let's go back to that prior slide. Oh, I'm sorry, you're on the right slide. If we go with the current trend on the straight line projection, we're seeing a lot of crashes there southbound, and it's raising high. Friday again is the high crash day to avoid. Next slide, Eugene. And here's some things to notice on here. Good news, very few alcohol related, and two speed related. Pretty good. It's no, but it's pretty close. A lot of speed related crashes at 52. And belted, most of them
Belted, no for the large tractor trailers, although higher than that Dale City. 29 crashes out of the total, being tractor trailer. Again, low number of alcohol related. Normally, when we see a section like this, we want to map the crashes. They all have, every crash has a latitude, longitude, to see, hey, is there something going on there? Maybe targeted enforcement. I know myself, as I go southbound from Route 3, I have trouble getting over those lanes and getting into through lanes. And we pointed this out to VDOT's crash team, Stephen Reed, that all the crashes in the public domain going back to January 1st of 2016 are all coded, all 128 crashes are coded and have their latitude, longitude in the through lanes. So this is something we noticed that was unusual. We pointed it out to them. And I do want to point out one of the regional smart scale projects was to widen the stretch southbound from Morton Road to 126. So a big safety improvement that smart scale project will yield. But again, this is just trends. I want to thank the policy committee for saying, hey, totals are good, but bring me a rate. And it was interesting to find that our stretch between Route 3 and Warrenton is a big winner or a big loser, depending on your point of view.
If you're going southbound in that section, there are too many crashes. We're gonna have to think about why that is. Try to see what can be done. Northbound in that section seems to be fine. But the southbound lanes seem through lanes seem to have a lot of crashes if they've coded them correctly. There's always usually error, right? So we.
I think one thing that Peggy didn't point out is the through lanes didn't exist until 2022.
Correct.
So,
Right.
but in fact, they're coded in there, that's an issue, but they didn't open it till.
That's why it's odd that when you do the lat one all the way back to 2016, they're basically in the dirt.
So, yeah, so we don't know what exactly is happening with the police officer or whoever's standing there and coding them. But anyway, the crashes exist. They might be further left or further right on the roadway, we don't know, but they certainly happened. And the rate is still staying high.
I just wonder if it's, because the decide before you, or divide, the divide, that whole thing we talked about before. Because I still, as frequently as I go, I still have to really think about that before I get there, right? And then there are a lot of last minute cuts and,
But that's north of 130.
you know.
They decide before one.
Oh, okay, but where do you dump back out though?
So the crashes, you dump back out right below 130. So right around 128 is where the through lanes and the local lanes come together. But with the volume of traffic, 126 backs up all the way to 130. So the accidents are happening before 130, which is mostly rear ends.
So two possible things that could be going on, and we don't have the time now to deal with it, but just quickly. The one is when the speed goes up, the rate of crashes goes up. Secondly, doing construction on the highway, the rate of crashes goes up. And what's happened? First of all, we had the construction, and straight after the construction, because we doubled the number of lanes, presumably people are going faster because now there's more space. So both of those two things probably contributed to it. Question is, why didn't it happen on the northbound lanes? Because it's only happening on the southbound lanes. So that's the question.
Mostly because there's a funnel effect.
We can dig, over time, we'll dig more into it.
Right, and-
Tonight, we can't answer
But
further than that.
when I'm coming off of the HOV lanes, right? I'm coming off the HOV lanes and I'm dumping down by Warrenton Road, right? That I have to,
Yes, you're dumping
I have
down
to-
before the river.
yeah, that's a confusing area there. I don't know.
We'll work with VDOT and we'll work with
Yeah.
staff and we'll work with consultants. Over time, we'll work out what's going on, but just note, tell your friends, careful, when you drive southbound between Route 17 and Blank Road, Route 3. It's a dangerous crash spot at the moment.
Chair Hayes, thank you for the presentation. I have a question about the graph. What do the percentages mean? What's the numerator and denominator that these
They are,
percentages?
go back up to the, one of the graphs. or maybe the very first slide, second slide that has the, right there, one more, back, there, stop. So the formula takes, total crashes, the length and traffic volume. And it's a pretty simple formula that, and I can send that to you in your packet.
That'd be great. I just,
And they're relative crash rates. So when you, the formula normally has per 100 million, and those rates had extra zeros, so I made them per million. I'll be glad when we send out the administrative report tomorrow to give you that formula.
I appreciate it.
Taught this at university, so she does know quite a bit about these numbers.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much. So we're moving on to
Great. So your next, the next item, Madam Chair, is about the remote participation. Virginia General Assembly changed the law recently, and so now the policy that we already have to allow you on an individual basis to have remote participation on these meetings twice a year, we have to ratify it again now every year. It's not any longer instituted for all time. You've got to have an annual re-ratification. So item 9C 1 and 2. 1 is to re-ratify what you've already approved some years back, because now it's an annual requirement. Item 2 is what we did for the TAC. We amended the TAC bylaws so that if there is an emergency, a weather emergency, crash, and no one can drive here, that kind of emergency, and we have items that can't wait, it would empower the chairperson to call an all 100% online meeting. You can't do it 2 meetings in a row, and there's conditions and all that which are written into the draft. But if you can just scroll up to that red section, I put in proposed language. According to the bylaws, in order to make that amendment, if you should wish to, is that I have to read it out to you now, and you have to come back next month and vote on it. It's that red paragraph. Basically what it's doing is it's allowing you to call through the chairperson 1 or 2 online meetings per annum maximum, if there is a good reason to do that. So we will normally not use it until one day there's a big problem. And you know, the thing about experience is you get it just after you needed it, right? So we will probably want this paragraph just after we needed it. So what I'm doing here is trying to future-proof you so that in 2 years' time, there's an emergency, you have a facility that allows you to call a full online meeting to deal with the emergency if you can't get here for some reason. So we wouldn't plan on doing this regularly, but at the moment, if that were to happen, you have no option. You have to meet physically.
So we're not, as far as C goes, C1, we need a motion
You do a
on
motion
that.
tonight, and number 2, I just have to read that read, and then you can decide by next month whether you want to vote yes or no.
Okay, so can we take C1 now?
Yes.
And can I get a motion?
I'll go ahead and move the reauthorization of resolution 20-32, FAMPO participation policy.
Okay,
Second.
all right, Meg?
I just think it should say chairwoman at the bottom, not.
Oh. We should probably just change it to chairperson.
Chair.
Oh, my
Chair.
God.
Anyway,
Thank you, Meg.
that's our error. We will amend it. Apologies from the staff.
Not chair.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Done.
Abstentions? Okay. All right, and then we're just going to
Number
have
2,
this
if I could
read.
just read you the red paragraph, and then if that, the bylaws state that if we amend the bylaws, we have to read it out and come back next month and vote. So let me read. For virtual meetings, other than the declared state of emergency pursuant to code 2.2-3708.3 C9 of the Code of Virginia and the Acts of the Assembly, enacted April 11th, 2022, the Policy Committee may convene up to 2 all virtual meetings per calendar year at the discretion of the FAMPO Policy Committee Chair and FAMPO Administrator under the following conditions. 1, all virtual meetings may not be held consecutively. 2, Give notification to the policy committee voting members and alternates of the process used for making the decision to hold all virtual meetings. And 3, follow all other meeting requirements stipulated in the policy committee bylaws, including but not limited to 3 days public notice. These stipulations would also apply to the FAMPO executive.
Okay, so we don't need a motion on
No.
that. That's just for the order
Next
as
month.
well.
I just have a quick question, and if I might.
Yes, sir.
So is this, we can call a meeting, all virtual meeting with 3 days notice, but this does it cover like taking an already scheduled and moving it online, like in response to an emergency? Like we have to have 3 days notice to say, sorry, it's gonna be online.
I believe so, yes. You'd have to give 3 days notice. You can't on the day of the meeting suddenly move it online because you've got to allow members of the public to know in advance and be able to participate. So if we have to cancel a meeting, we'd have to reschedule it maybe a week later and call it an online meeting. So you can't get away with the 3 days notice because people who are then traveling to this meeting on the day may arrive here and there's nothing.
That strikes me as not really solving the problem of an emergency, though, right? I mean, like, I'm struggling to imagine the set of circumstances in which there's a week-long period in which we cannot convene in person, right? I can imagine a situation where there's a meeting, there's a pressing piece of business, there's a blizzard, we gotta meet virtually. That I can conceive of. Under this policy, we can't do that.
So
We know the blizzard's coming in 3 days, right? But like, what's the set of circumstances in which we know there's a pressing piece of business and we can't meet for at least 3 days, but then we can't get here in person?
Right.
I mean, sort of like the end of the world, right?
So the emergency may relate to the urgency of the item to be discussed, not necessarily the emergency outside of the room. So for example, you might have one of our state partners needs us to approve something that's critical, because without our tip having an item in, they can't spend the money. And we may then need to call a meeting before 1 month from now. But to get you to all drive here twice a month might be quite an onerous thing. So we may be able to have an online meeting to deal with an urgent thing that cannot wait.
So it's more of it's
Like in December.
Like
We
an
don't have a
additional
scheduled
meeting.
In December. We could call a meeting in December, but to get you to drive here if you've gone to be with family, might be able to do a quick 20-minute online meeting to approve the thing so that Marcy's can spend more money on the salt to put on the road or something, right? We don't know what could happen.
This is separate and apart from a declared state of emergency. So
Yes.
state code already allows for us to have virtual meetings under a state of emergency. So
Correct.
this is a secondary, like, for kind of to what Ian's point is, a secondary option to have a virtual meeting, not to, there's a blizzard and we have to do it. That's totally separate. We can do that already under the current state
So
code.
You're quite correct. During that big snow crisis a couple of years back, a state of emergency wasn't declared, right? For whatever reason. And under that situation, we could call an online meeting quick. Right,
Well,
3
but-
days, within 3 days notice.
But we didn't even know that was gonna happen like that until the morning of, right? I mean, that was like such an anomaly.
Sure, but it didn't last 1 day. And
Right.
this is not to be used regularly. This is
Right.
for when something happens, we have at least some way we can have a meeting.
And through you.
Madam Chair, Ian, just so I'm clear. State of the emergency is order a business emergency or a external?
It's the way it's worded, either way.
Okay.
It doesn't tell you what kind of emergency you have to have. It says if it's
Right.
determined by the chair and the chair informs me that there's an emergency, or I inform the chair that somebody has an emergency, the chair can then make a decision to call a meeting, but must give notice.
Right.
The key thing is that you can't get around the notice because of FOIA.
And 3 days is the minimum.
Right.
Okay.
I might be more comfortable if the word emergency was in there, right? Because that,
Doesn't-
It is.
But it's not for.
All this is
Right.
let's say that next week we need to vote on something and not all of us can attend and get a quorum. So Lori could say, hey, we're gonna do a virtual meeting so that people are traveling can join because we forgot that there's a time limit and we didn't vote on it at the past meeting.
I would call that emergency.
Like, but we, that's maybe not to the tune of the definition of state code. It's totally separate than what you're thinking of as far as like a state of emergency, like during COVID, that allowed us all to meet virtually. That's already covered.
And the first sentence says that.
Yeah,
No.
other than a declared state of emergencies in the first
I
sentence.
just think we should meet in person at all possible. We
Oh, yeah.
like everybody gets 2 virtual meetings per year if they need to
But
Right.
only if you have a quorum. So there has to be a quorum in the room.
for that, yeah.
If there was like, we had to do something next week and all of us were traveling VACO or something, and we couldn't meet down there, like we were in different places or whatever, then it allows for us to all call in virtual.
Have a virtual.
Meg,
Yeah.
So let me ask Ian, Madam Chair, Ian, was there something that precipitated you wanting to add this language? How did this come about?
So the legislation has changed and it's made this possibility now legal, which we weren't allowed to do before. And numbers of MPOs have adopted language like this, in simpler language, to allow them to do that. So it's the trend now is to make the option available for virtual meetings if you can't meet in person.
Okay.
That's what this seeks to do.
we're also gonna see this at GWRC, I believe, too.
So you're
So-
gonna see number 1 at GWRC,
Right.
you're not gonna see number 2 necessarily.
Because it's already done, I think, right?
I don't know whether Chip is gonna propose this, but other MPOs are doing this as a
Sure.
result of the General Assembly changing the law. So I'm trying to give you additional opportunities rather than very narrowly controlling everything that happens. So you all can decide to have a meeting. Without this, you don't have a quorum online.
So I appreciate Will's kind of consternation a little bit. So I'll just give you an example. Let's say that there's some legislation that happens during the very short General Assembly period. And we just had a FAMPO meeting and, oh my God, we need to act on this. And you've got somebody from each locality that's out of town. This would be a great way for Lori or whoever's chair to say, hey, let's do a virtual meeting. Can we do this? We can still get our business accomplished. So, you know, now that they're giving us this flexibility, I don't think it's going to be abused by anybody. But I think that we want to have this at our fingertips if we can. Why not?
I think, yeah, I don't envision it being
I don't
abused or
think it'll be a
anything.
Substitute for a meeting.
No.
Right, but, you know, to your point too, Meg, that it could be that not all of us are gone, but all of one jurisdiction is gone at a conference.
Right.
Retreat at whatever, and then we don't have quorum, right? So
Right.
that they could.
Currently, you have to have a quorum in the room. And
Yeah.
this
Right.
allows us to not have that.
Right.
You
And that-
still have to have a quorum. Still have to have a quorum. So you still have to have all 3 jurisdictions present. Still have to have a minimum of 6, I think it is. But you can just do it on your computer. You don't have to come here. That's all that
Right.
does.
So, Will, are you okay with that?
Yeah, I mean, I get you loosen this a little bit to make things more workable. I just, you know, I'm hesitant to loosen things more than they need to be.
Right, I understand.
And you,
Right.
Making sure that we're not loosening it.
That's
more
fine.
than it needs to be loosened, because I think it's a core value that.
Right.
Be in person and the public knows where to find us.
and you've got a month to think about this, chat to other people, consult
Right,
before you have to make a
Okay.
decision.
okay, so that doesn't require a motion then, or anything. All right, and we voted on the other one already, so now we're at the river crossing update. That's the
John?
write out.
Good evening. I'm going to provide a quick update on the river crossing process. We have been busy this summer. We haven't stopped working. This little thing has. Okay, there we go. So since the last update in June, we've actually met with BPAC. We've started the discussion for them to start thinking of ideas of how to integrate any bike and pedestrian infrastructure into the facility. Right now, the river crossing is only calling for a shared use path along the facility, but how that is integrated within each one of the jurisdictions and access would be kind of up to them. And so we're just getting the ball rolling of start thinking of how we want to pursue those connections.
Sorry, you see
BPAC, bike and pedestrian.
Okay, thank you.
Advisory committee, yes. So in addition to that, we've been underway with our alternatives analysis and environmental screening. During this, we've been under the assumption again that we are using a 4-lane lighted facility with a shared use path design. We are taking a 250 foot wide corridor for our impacts. This is actually wider than this typical road section by a significant margin. And so that's going to allow us to kind of identify where we might have to make changes. So we're using this 250 corridor. I mean, if you draw the road straight down the center line, it might start clipping things that are identified during the analysis. So this gives you a little bit of maneuverability within the corridor, also not discounting anything that might be kind of on the fringes and areas of the road. So the Bike BPAC committee kind of got an early preview of some of this information. We have our 250 foot wide corridors moving along. They're able to kind of look at some of the conservation issues. Our consultants been basically building up a database of things, including land use, historic resources, and other items of concern that are within these corridors, as well as counting up other resources. So in this case, we were showing them how each one of these items might cross a current or proposed recreational trail. And just developing up so that we're building up this spreadsheet. We're looking to have this as well as some other additions made during our stakeholder things. They wanted to add the resource protection area and resource management area. We have both Fredericksburg and shown, and as well as Stafford County in that, updating with recent zoning changes. We're looking to have this available at our next stakeholder meeting. In addition, the modeling is under full swing. In fact, actually the main major modeling work has actually been completed. They're now transitioning to, well, partially, yes. We've basically got the model built out and working as we expected to be intended. We're now adding the Harrison Road interchange option to that. We've been collaborating with NBI as well as VDOT on a couple of items there. We've been refining this. So this is a transition. As you've heard earlier in the meeting, we're actually going through a full model revision. So this one's actually pulling social economic data from that most recent. But we've been building out the network that's more based on the previous model, but we've been updating it with the constrained long range on a lot of the recent projects. So it's kind of being brought up to date. The rub, unfortunately, comes with our VSIM micro simulations. So about a little over a week ago, 2 weeks ago, our NBI and VDOT were having conversations. We're having issues. NBI has been using a version of the software that was most recently updated in 2024. VDOT is in the process of moving from 2021 to 2024, but they haven't validated 2024 yet. Shouldn't be too much of a problem. However, when we're trying to backport from the Michael Baker using the 2024 model, it's not backporting correctly into the 2021 version. So we're actually having a backwards compatibility issue on that. So what that's happening is that one solution is that kind of scrub a lot of the 2024 work and just rebuild the model within 2021 and go through the validation process that we've been pretty much nearing completion on. Or as NBI has actually been working with VSIM, their corporate office is figuring out what kind of bug is the holdup for backporting to 2021. It's kind of a weird technical issue that's kind of ground some things to a halt. But hopefully by the end of the week, we will know whether or not the backporting is successful. We should have an update later this week for that to let us know if it is, or if they're going to have to go back and kind of rebuild the model and just make sure that when we run it in 2021, it's giving us the same outputs that we're expecting that were covered, validated with the 2024 model. So that's kind of the issue. We're probably not likely going to have both of them unless we get some kind of pull the inside straight on this one by August. But we're looking to hopefully have that wrapped up by probably early October. But it might not even move further on, depending on what little hiccups could kind of put back into things. So we actually initially had our second public meeting proposed. We had the date solidified for September. We now have this date confirmed for later October meeting, just in case things go a little bit slower than expected. But hopefully we can start having this information a lot earlier and get through that process. It's a weird little technical issue that's kind of thrown both NDI, VDOT, and I'm assuming PSENT into a little bit of head scratching, but we're just not able to backwork 2024 the way that we should. Yes.
Sure, Madam Chair, John, will we have a date for October then?
Hang on. Just slow down.
I think I'm being slow. I just
No,
want
you are, I'm trying to slow John down.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. There is a 2-month delay effectively because there are problems with the software. And the problem is quite simple, as John explained. VDOT is operating with a version of the software from 2021, and the consultant has got the latest version. And so VDOT can't open the files. So VDOT can't look at it to validate that it is actually correct. So you always have an external body validating what the consultant is doing so that make sure nobody's missed the trick, right? And so we're having a problem that VDOT can't open the files to check that it's correct. So they are now talking to the software developer. Talking to the software developer about fixing the problem so that VDOT can open the files and look at them and check that everything is correct. So we are running 2 months, I would say, behind schedule. We hope to, by the end of this year, calendar year, hopefully finish the study. It's going to fall over into January and probably February because we have to do this modeling properly because it answers a lot of the questions that members have been asking about. Well, how much extra traffic is there going to be on Route 3 and how much? So to answer that question accurately, you've got to make sure that this model is operating properly. And in order to do that, we need VDOT to validate that model. So I'm suggesting that we're about 2 months behind. So John has proposed a date, but we just need to make sure that VDOT and the consultant can both properly view all of the data. And so I don't want us to commit publicly to the meeting.
So maybe we'll know that date at the next meeting.
I should have prefaced my question by saying it's a two-part question. Okay. One was, we're gonna have a second meeting, or we're gonna delay this meeting to another.
Correct.
I accidentally heard October, and I'm sorry if I misheard that. I understand. Second is, what's the pace plan or backup plan? If you just can't resolve this bug, are we gonna get paper and pencils out and calculators?
No, we are going to solve this problem. VDOT and the consultant, not this VDOT people that do models.
Yeah.
And the consultant will solve this problem.
Because I'm thinking about the public notification.
We intentionally took if it's the last worst case scenario, that's where we're looking at a November public meeting. If they have to rebuild the entire model in 2021, go through the revalidation process, assume that there's something even wrong with that, and then be able to have time to fix it, to have it. That was our
worst case.
It can all be done. We're just trying to avoid the worst case scenario, which means start again, which I don't want to do. And we don't get anybody paid for starting again. So
it's just a hiccup. It's just a hiccup.
It's just a hiccup.
We'll know at our September 16th meeting when the next public thing meeting is, and we'll move forward, I guess.
Sorry, I just interrupted, but I just wanted to make sure we don't set the wrong expectations and then not come to the next meeting.
We're used to, oh, that's not gonna happen for another blah, blah, blah. There's never anything that comes in on time.
I stick to what I say in public. Which is why I'm saying we will let you know by the next meeting. Just want to make sure that it's true.
Mike Tyson thing. Everybody's got a plan until you get punched in the mouth.
This is somebody's throwing a chair into the lights kind of down, but
it was all looking great, and now we've got a hiccup. So.
It's kind of like CrowdStrike.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep, we're good. Is that, oh, thank you. Thank you for that update. So we're going to E now, FAMPO letter of support for Spotsylvania County's federal planning grant for the railroad crossing elimination program. This is an action item.
a simple request. They want to apply for a grant to fix. And we are asking for a letter of support to support the county's application for funding. Not controversial.
This is on mine and benchmark, correct? Yes, so that if you guys know where that is, we've had multiple crashes there. Some, people running the,
Boom.
yeah, so,
As someone who drives through there frequently, I would like to make a motion to support this.
thank you.
There you go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Second one from the city, second from Monica.
Any discussion? We're all good there? Okay. All those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? None. Okay. Awesome. Okay, that brings us to correspondence. The Caroline County Board of Supervisors resolution requesting an opt-out of the Regional Transportation Authority. You want to go over that, or it's in there, so.
Back, we received the letter, we passed it on to you through the agenda today. And you can read about all the detail of what they say,
Yeah.
and particularly one was opt-out clause, so I think it's pretty self-explanatory.
Okay, and then the King George Ready, Set, Go Phase 1 TAP award notification.
We just want to celebrate successes. So there you can see there's a new success in our region. It's 800 and Eugene, can you help me? The value of it is $870,000. There you go,
56,400.
Yeah. For this particular TAP, for those of you who are new, is Transportation Alternatives Program. It's for bicycle and pedestrian facilities, so sidewalks, shared use paths, and so on. There's a project in George County, and they were awarded that money in the game of bidding for money.
Good deal for them.
Yeah,
For them.
nice.
Yeah, they're not here to celebrate
Oh,
with us, so.
Kathy Bender's online.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
congrats. All right, and then we have staff and agency reports, round 6, regional smart scale project summary.
Just before that, the person that's standing there behind the computer is a new FAMPO staff member that I'd like to
Welcome.
introduce. That is Eugene Liang. Eugene, welcome. Eugene has taken over our public engagement and Title VI work. Want to say anything, Eugene, to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi, like Ian said, my name's Eugene Lang. I'm the new Title VI and Public Involvement Coordinator here at FAMPO. Originally from Williamsburg, Virginia, but I spent a few years in UMW to get my degree in historic preservation and accounting with a museum studies minor, and then
Congrats. Thank you.
Are you a devil or a goat?
I think I was supposed to be a goat, but because of the year I graduated, no, other way around. It was so long ago.
Okay, the round 6 summary you've seen, I did it in my presentation, so we don't need to go over that again. CTEC, this presentation, John prepared for the CTEC, and we promised as a staff that we wouldn't go through the whole presentation for you unless you have questions. There's just one number I want John to show you, and that is the percentage in Virginia of user fees that goes towards paying for the roads. It's much lower than you think. Just show them that one number, and if there are any questions on it, we've got it in your pack.
State highway and user revenue, this is your gas tax, motor vehicle tax, anything that's related for a driver paying into some type of tax into the Commonwealth of Virginia in any form that includes wholesale taxes. So it's about 27% of the total amount. Virginia's.
So just stop there. When you drive your car, by paying the gas tax, by paying the toll fee, by paying any user fee, you're only paying for 20% of the cost of the road use that you enjoy by driving on that road. So the general taxpayer is picking up the tab for much more of it than what the driver is paying.
But what's in the other, the 4%? Can you help me there?
Okay, so yeah, predominantly that's probably going to be the sales tax. This information did not break it out, but it also could be the recordation tax that's being they have to roads. It's anything that was not associated with, road user fees or fuel tax things. But it can be basically a catch-all for any other tax. And for some states, because all states are very different on this, it could be property taxes, it could be, any other type of use tax that's not related to an automobile or roadway network.
And the blue on the right shows you what the national figure is. So nationally, it's just under 40% that the user is paying. Virginia, the user is paying less,
So why is that?
because the gas tax is low. You don't believe it, but it is low.
So question then, local funds though, doesn't that pick up some of that gap?
Yes,
And then,
9% there.
we don't, that's not represented in national, obviously, it's too.
Virginia is unique. We actually account for about 1/5 of the total amount of local funds used nationally. So Virginia kind of leans on local funds more than any other state.
So what about, so a portion goes to VRE, right? So is that taken out of the 27%,
Well,
or is that,
I don't believe it. I think the,
because that would be unique to ours?
this is what the state's audited fees say. So they say, of all this money that comes in, this is how much we put towards the roads, and they make these calculations.
Yeah, this is a further breakout of how the funds are used. So these are funds used for the highways, the road networks. You can see that motor fuels tax and vehicle and carrier taxes are different. The general funds and a few others. If your question is for the transit, it's down here. It's about 2.5%. So there's some more information if you can dig it. Not a lot.
Yeah.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
But that's a good point. But really, okay, if you go back to the slide before that, one more. If you go, I saw general fund, oh, the one before. So if you look at other taxes or local government up there, 9%, because we're paying a part of VRE, is it coming out of local government? Is it coming out of, because that's our,
This is used for highways.
oh, that's
used
the
for
highway.
All of that money goes just to the roads.
Oh, I got you.
None of that money goes to the transit.
Sorry about that.
So what you're saying is that on a national basis, their gas taxes are higher than ours?
Yes. And
By how
and we're
much?
chopping it up with general funds. So we're taking all the other taxes you pay that go to the state of Virginia, and we're topping up the cost of the roads with that other money.
Sorry, this is pre-COVID data. Virginia is, I think, ranked 45th, so we're kind of in the lower tier. Each state is very different. I mean, some states even transfer, say, their fuels tax or the gas tax to public education. So it's not always as clear cut. There's a lot of, I would say, one code swapping going on, but generally speaking, Virginia's a lot lower. My previous state work in North Carolina was much, much higher. So at the very end of it is kind of a example of what happens when COVID, everybody stops driving. Your entire highway system is based on either gas tax or vehicle purchases during COVID. It created a massive shortfall at that point in time. So being diversified isn't necessarily a bad thing. That was one of the requests my previous MPO said. Can you investigate some other states of how it's doing it so that we don't create kind of.
What about electric
My
vehicles?
personal summit, well, they pay a user fee, a road user fee in Virginia. That's $1,000 and something a year. My summary of all of this is to remind everyone that every mode of transportation is subsidized by the general taxpayer. Whether you're riding on a ship, a plane, a bus, a bicycle, a car, a truck. The user fees for all of that, including your airplane ticket, is not actually enough to pay for all of the things we have to provide in the infrastructure. So when an airport is built, it doesn't all come out of the thing. The security guard at the airport checking that you're not a whatever person, their salary is not paid by your ticket. So all modes of transportation, the general taxpayer has to help.
I would think don't the airlines pay some sort of user fee?
They do.
For the user?
They do, but historically, if you look through the costs of building all the airports, there was always some general taxpayer help. When the airlines go bankrupt, the federal government bails them out. the security guard that stands there checking your ID, paid for by not the ticket price. in your thing. So there's always some hidden stuff that the general taxpayer is helping to make it.
So just so I'm understanding correctly, in Virginia, all the taxpayers are paying more for the people who are using the roads.
Same as, yes, same as the bus, same as the train, same as anything else, the bicycle.
All modes of transportation.
All modes of transportation. It just levels the playing field if you look at this, because one kind of mode of transportation is not subsidizing another mode. They all are a net negative in terms of cash. All modes of transportation take cash from the general taxpayer to help keep it going.
Okay.
Done. Thank you.
I don't know what we're supposed to do with that information, but, you know, we'll just in our back pocket.
What you're supposed to do with that is realize that when, I mean, I don't want to make a political point here. I'm supposed to be neutral, so I try and steer away from making political points, but there's some political points that people have made. Let me quote the past, because then I won't be picking on anybody. In the past, a certain president stood up in public and said, every time a train leaves the station, the general taxpayer is paying half the cost of that ticket, which was true at the time. But the person driving on the road is also getting their trip subsidized by the general taxpayer. So it means that when people play politics with, oh, you shouldn't fund the bike path, or you shouldn't fund the bus, or you shouldn't fund the whatever else, we're funding them all. My taxpayer money, my taxes, I would pay for a road that I never drive on that you drive on, because the use fee is not covering the cost anymore, and it's getting worse. The federal gas tax is too little to pay for the roads.
When do you think this might be updated? You said it was pre-pandemic or?
Pandemic, I was just using what the fare box recovery was pre-pandemic. I do have post-pandemic that shows that, like, for example, heavy and commuter rail, was actually paying for at least 50%. Actually, PRTC and VRE were top 5 in fare box recovery, previous, not anymore. They've kind of had that struggle. And so we do have that, later in the information of just saying, where's everybody gone? But even the highway trends have the amount that we've been paying, like back in the 1960s, you have road users were paying 70%. That trend has been consistently declining over time, requiring large and relatively large infusions of cash in the highway trust fund to keep it solvent. And we're looking at another thing that it's going to run out of money 2028, 2029. And so once again, you're looking at another large infusion of cash if it doesn't have some other source of revenue coming in, because that 19 to 24 cents gas tax has remained flat since 1993.
And inflation has
also gone up.
Yeah, inflation.
Okay.
Thanks, Chair. We didn't want to belabor it.
No, that's helpful information. VTA award.
This is a very quick one. At the VTA conference, people got awards. So one staff member at Fredericksburg Go received the Unsung Hero Award for doing a lot of work behind the scenes. Jen DeBrule, the former head of the Virginia Passenger Rail, the Department of Rail and Public Transportation, received a Distinguished Service Award. Bob Schneider on our board, who is unfortunately not here tonight, Bob received a Special Recognition Award from the Virginia Transit Association. And then Nick Rui, who's our VRE member on the TAC, received, he graduated and got a certificate from a new thing called the Virginia Transit Leadership Institute. So we just, unsung heroes, we're just saying, well done.
That's great. Thank you. The new Route 208 Park and Ride feeder service.
So Jamie has sent out some communications. We're just making you aware of it. The park and rides for the VRE were closed during COVID. This is the first route to reopen, and there's just some correspondence from them about the relaunch of this route. We've got one of them here. If you have any questions, don't ask me, ask Fred.
Okay. Anybody have any questions? Good. Okay, Fredericksburg Comprehensive Plan update.
They the correspondence in your pack, tells you, embarking on an update to the entire comprehensive plan. There is a survey to complete. If you wish to complete the survey, and they're having public meetings for you to attend and make comments. So anybody, particularly people who live or work in Fredericksburg, now's your chance to have a say about the comprehensive plan.
Like if it's a comprehensive plan, it's long. So if you all are inclined to go on and do the survey, please do. Answer 3 to 5 questions, scroll to the bottom, hit submit, but better you do that than not participate at all.
How is the participation so far? Do you know?
Last week it was like at 270 something, but Will and I have done a podcast that we're hoping people to do, to participate in the survey. And
Well
they
over a
have until-
million.
It's open
Well
until,
over a million. Absolutely.
it's open until October first, so we're
1st,
hoping to
so
hit
it's-
1,000 by then, yeah.
Yeah, we've done them, not so much, we did small area plans in different areas in Spotsy. And it's always frustrating because you want something that's statistically significant, right?
Right.
And then you come back and it's like 40 people and it's like, then it's not significantly, it's not statistically accurate
We
for the
still have
population.
some, pop-up thing.
Oh, good.
Participate, but he's.
I hope you guys.
You definitely don't have to live in Fredericksburg, anyone who has an investment in the city.
You want to give the debt,
Oh, yeah, I
this was his.
got on city staff because the website was like this horrific thing of letters and numbers. I made them give me a short link, so it's fredericksburgva.gov/forward. That took me several days of work. So I'm very proud of it.
Much easier now.
Good. Okay, and then the reminder on VDOT statewide update to the federal functional classification.
Just tell your staff, please, to pay attention to this. We only get one time in 10 years to adjust the functional classifications of the roads in our region. And it does help you with getting funding to make improvements to the roads if they have a better classification. So it's your one shot. In the next month, we need whatever input from your counties and so on as to what things should be done. VDOT has done some work. They've proposed a couple of changes. If there's anything that they haven't done and you think should be done, now's your one chance in 10 years to say so.
Okay, and will this be reported on here then?
You will be signing a letter approving the results.
Okay.
So absolutely. And I think we need to ask VDOT when it comes to the letter to do a short presentation.
All right, and then board member comments, anybody have anything for the? Yes.
So between now and the next FAMPO meeting, 2 traffic things. So this week we'll be shutting down a lane on Route 1 and South Point Parkway for that project. So avoid that area. It'll be for 3 weeks. South Point Parkway will be down to 1 lane over the creek. And the
That's
left
the-
turn lane, the double left will
bound.
be 1, yes, heading towards 208. The other is the weekend, right before the next FAMPO meeting, the weekend of 13, 14, 15, 16. We'll be doing a rapid bridge replacement with a culvert on Route 3 over Lick Run in Spotsylvania County. And that's between the Battlefield Country Store and the new fire station. You're aware of those issues. And we'll be taking all the westbound traffic off of the westbound lanes, and on the eastbound lanes, there'll be 1 lane in each direction for 4 days. So avoid that area that weekend.
Okay.
And don't we have something on the Falmouth Bridge starting like
Those are
tomorrow?
those are nighttime closures. I
Right.
believe, to do more testing for the eventual project.
So my real question was, when will you all be bringing something to us about the Falmouth Bridge and what we can anticipate in timelines, et cetera?
I do not know when the report is due, but I can find out. Cassie, the report is due. I mean, they're still doing testing of the bridge and things like that. So, I mean, it's going to be several more months.
Okay, all right, so maybe beginning of 25.
Maybe.
If another piece falls off, it might be late.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Anyone else have anything? I just want to thank VDOT, Kyle Bates for coming to my town hall for 2 and 17, and our county staff, Paul Agnello. That was a very, very good town hall meeting and Becky was there. And I just really am so appreciative of everything he does in the district. I mean, he is extremely helpful and, not just for that project, but for other things going on. And so I just want to publicly thank Kyle for everything he's done for us. Yes.
Chair, can I add something to that?
Yes.
I know I've said it at our board meetings, but I want to say it to you guys too, Kyle, and the efforts with the, I guess, ditch widening.
Yeah, the trench widening.
Trench widening. It's made a huge difference. That simple fix really made a big difference with parts of River Road and Brock Road. So really grateful for that.
A little birdie tells me that we're gonna get funding to do the safety study for it.
Oh, that'd be good.
Brock and Brock.
Oh,
We haven't got it in writing yet, but looks like we're gonna be able to do that.
all right, well, I think we're all set. Thank you for being, forgiving of my first time on this board.
Yeah, you did fine. Thank you.
Job.
Better than I would do.
Thank you.
And we're out of here before.
I know, my goodness.
Some towns that had a